Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to Brewing on a Budget. As always, I am Scott and my wonderful assistant,
Abbey.
Hey Abby.
Hey.
Hey everyone. Today we're doing a mono black removal deck, but before we get to talking about the deck, as sometimes we do, we've already played this deck through a number of games, and I just want to talk about, in the first match you guys will see, we play against a really cool deck. I won't spoil it, but we actually play against a lot of cool decks this time through, but this first one is especially cool. And I just want to let you know that toward the end, we do make a terrible mistake. That
we always make some sort of terrible mistake.
I make a terrible mistake, and just so that you know, we probably I misread a certain card in the deck, and if I had just blocked differently, then we could have won the game. So I know you don't have to tell me in the comments. Don't worry about it.
We know.
We know
so well.
Anyway, onto this deck, the actual deck. This is, as I just said, mono black removal. This deck is a direct answer to the Delver decks that have been popping up all the time. I mean, in our last
so many of them.
Yeah, in our last tournament, every deck we played was a Delver deck, right?
Oh yeah, like pretty much every deck. Yeah, it was getting borderline annoying.
Right. So I was like, all right, what kind of deck can destroy a Delver deck? Well, Delver decks really have no way to gain card advantage outside of their land that makes 1/1 spirit tokens. So if you can just 1-for-1 all of their guys and just eventually beat them down, then you can win. So I was like, alright, well, I'm just going to make a mono black deck that has tons of removal and slowly wins through nothing but good old reassembling skeleton.
Oh yeah.
Because, I mean, a lot of the blue-red Delver decks have burn, and they can kill your guys or counter them, but if they kill or counter reassembling skeleton, he's just coming right back and he's going to hit you. And actually with this deck, even though it obviously depends on the matchup, but we usually choose to play second with this deck, which is something pretty rare. But since, especially against Delver decks, we're usually just trying to 1-for-1 them with removal and then beat them down with reassembling skeleton and other very durable threats, as we'll get to later. We want to choose to do second because we're up a card. I mean, they play first turn Delver, we Ring Flesh it. They play turn 2 whatever, we Doomblade it. Turn 3 Geist, and then we Guess Verdict it. So we just want to 1-for-1 them and keep beating down, and we're not really that concerned about being faster than them. We just want to slowly and steady win the race, and we do that by going second. Obviously, against some decks we don't want to go second, but we'll see how it goes in the matchups to see which ones we want to choose to go first or second with. So originally this deck was nothing but removal and reassembling skeleton. And it was okay, but eventually I realized that just beating down with 1-1-1 or 2-2-2 or 2-2-1s or 3-1-1s oftentimes wasn't fast enough. And it worked well against some Delver decks, but against other decks like control decks or any other deck like ramp decks, it just wasn't enough because they just generate too much card advantage. Their guys would just come out and they'd have a million ink moths and they'd hit me for a million poison. It just wasn't good enough. So I decided to put in some other very durable creatures. Lashwraith is excellent because first he comes down as a creature himself, and then when they kill the creature or whatever, you just equip him to your infinitely recurring skeleton. So Reassembling Skeleton turns from a 1-1 into a 10-10 very easily because our deck is mono swamps, except for some buried ruins to get back Lashwraiths when they die. And then our other creature is Bloodline Keeper. Because, like we said before, when we're playing against the Delver decks and they have the land that makes 1-1 flying tokens, if you just kill other guys, they just turn them into 1-1 spirits. But if you have a guy who can just pump out 2-2s to constantly block their 1-1s, then you're all set. You don't got to worry about it. And he's if they don't deal with this guy, he'll just win the game after 3 or 4 turns if he's unchecked too. So these 3 guys are the way we win games, and the way we prevent them from winning the game is by using Ring Flesh, Doomblade, and Victim of Night as our targeted removal, Guess Verdict and Tribute to Hunger as a way to kill Geist of St. Traft or Thrun.
Pretty good idea.
Dungrove Elder.
Yeah.
Yes, so just ways to kill things that aren't targeted. We also have Black Sun Zenith as a way to kill lots of weenies or again guys that you can't target. Yes, and Ratchet Bomb is also good against tokens decks as well.
Good. Yeah, those have been really popular lately, so.
Not as popular as Delver, but yes.
Yeah, but still quite popular, so it's something to watch out for.
And the reason we're using Victim of Night over Go for the Throat is I understand that when we have the combination of Doomblade and Victim of Night as our targeted removal, we can't kill Olivia or Phyrexian Crusader because Phyrexian Crusader is a zombie and Olivia is a vampire, and they're both black. But I would prefer to not be stuck with a Go for the Throat in my hand when I'm facing down a Worm Coil Engine or against Tempered Steel deck, because I think Worm Coil Engine and Tempered Steel are a bit more prevalent right now than Olivia or Crusader anyway.
Yeah.
So that's the reasoning behind that. Alright, and onto the sideboard, we have some more very cheap removal, Dead Weight.
That's interesting.
This is what we bring in against Delver decks or against little guy decks like mono
Yeah.
red, so we can just have more quick removal to take down their guys.
Yeah.
And for Ratchet Bomb, again, against little decks or against token decks, or even against sometimes Delver decks, if they've somehow managed to flip their Delvers,
You
then
just set
bam.
off for nothing and it's gone.
And Ratchet Bomb is really our only way of dealing with Planeswalkers. When I was testing this deck loses hard to Karn.
Oh.
This deck cannot beat a resolved Karn, because usually we win on the back of having one threat out, and Karn just comes down and exiles it, and then it's just over. So this deck has,
Wow.
against other Planeswalkers it's not so bad, but Karn is just bad. So if your opponent has Karn, you just need to get Ratchet Bomb down and ratchet it up to 7 as fast as possible, basically. That's our out. It's not a good one, but it's an out.
At least you have one.
Anyway, moving on, we have Sorin's Thirst, because against mono red we can just get burnt out very quickly.
Yep.
So this is a way to kill their little guys and gain some life in the process. And over here we have another Tribute to Hunger. If our opponent has lots of hexproof creatures, we bring this in, or if Victim of Night or Doomblade is ineffective against our opponent, then we can sideboard this in as just more removal.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly over here we have Vengeful Pharaoh.
That's an interesting pick.
Yes, he's just another really hard to kill creature like Bloodline Keeper. Well, Bloodline Keeper's not hard to kill, but he's resilient.
Yeah.
Like Reassembling Skeleton and Lashwraith, he just doesn't go away very easily.
Oh God,
so
no.
against
Oh,
he's
God,
coming
no.
back whether you want him to or not.
Yeah.
So against decks where we just need more threats to win the game with, like against control decks, because against control decks we don't need all of this removal, especially this mass removal. So we just put in 3 Vengeful Pharaohs and another Swamp, so that way we have more lands to get to 5 quickly to beat them down.
Yeah, he's a pretty good beater once you get him down.
Yes, 5/4. He kills anything in combat, and he beats for quite a bit. And with a Lashwraith, it's nasty.
Nasty.
Alright, so yeah, we hope you enjoy the matches. We enjoyed playing them, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this deck or any other deck, just let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear.
We know we'll hear from him. Enjoy.
Enjoy!